The human mind is just not prepared to process. I don't think it's prepared to process death in general, especially in
Mm-hmm.
the Western
Yeah,
world.
I would agree.
Because I see other cultures and I'm jealous that they are allowed freedom of grief and expression. And people don't look at them like they have three heads. So while my mother's loss prepared me in ways of kind of, sort of what grief would feel like, but I would argue with anyone that you just can't prepare for this. The way that your children change you, they make you a different human. Losing them does exactly that, but it's mostly negative.
Can you pinpoint anything that was helpful for you to be able to put one foot in front of the other, to be able to get out of bed? Welcome to Drinks with the Girls. Conversations for women over 40 around connection, change, and the power of female friendship. Living well with stories to tell. I'm Karen, and this is Lisa.
We are moms and solopreneurs stepping into our own, diving into real conversations about things that matter to women in midlife.
We're here to spill the tea on everything that affects women in their 40s and beyond. Topics like loss and grief, changing relationships, launching kids, menopause, and reinventing ourselves in midlife. We are here to tackle it all.
Connect with us through a blend of our lived experiences, our friendship, the memory of our moms, plus a collection of real stories, honest conversations, and engaging interviews that will make women over 40 feel seen and remind them that they're not alone on this journey called life. Let's go.
Welcome back to another episode of Drinks with the Girls. Today we have a guest I'm so excited for you to hear, listeners. I'm excited for myself based on the past year that I've had. I'm very excited to hear what she has to say. We have Marie Cruz. She is a speaker, an author, a retreat facilitator, and she is a certified grief guide and empowerment coach. And she's also developed a journaling practice, because I'm a freak from a journal, called The Nautilus Way, that I want to dive into also. So welcome, Marie. But before we get going, I have to let you know what I'm drinking. And I'm so excited, everybody. Today I am drinking Prosecco because my grandson is on his way. Yay! So hopefully by tomorrow, my grandson, my first grandbaby, will be here. So I'm so excited. Lisa,
and what brand of champagne is it for the listeners and the show note?
Well, I actually got this out of my dad's refrigerator when we cleaned his condo out. My dad passed away in February, Marie. It's Mionetto, just this little split guy. It does the job.
M-I-O? Okay.
Mionetto.
Asking for a friend who does the show notes.
Mm-hmm.
Just saying.
What are you drinking?
I am drinking an Olipop crisp apple. They had it for people like me that impulse buy on the way out. So I was doing one of those shops where I just grab drinks on my way out. And I'm like, oh, I'll try this. It's good. For some reason, my ice is not real cold, so it kind of melted really quickly. But yeah, I like it. Yeah, I'd give it a 6 out of 10.
Is that like a seltzer water?
It is a probiotic soda that supports digestive health. Prebiotics, botanicals, plant fiber,
Nice.
plant-powered microbiome approved. It's probably still like Coca-Cola. Oh, no, they're their own thing. I saw this horrible thing. Well, not horrible, but one of my friends posted how many natural and kind of progressive brands have been sucked up by bigger candy brands like Hershey's and Mars and Nestle. I was like, oh my God. So your Luna bar I think it's a Hershey bar now. It's kind of nuts. Anyways, Marie, tell us a little bit about yourself and tell us what you're drinking.
Well, thank you. First, I want to just thank you both for having the space, because without the space, we can't tell the stories. So I am I'll tell you about myself. I'll tell you what I'm drinking right now is just some water, and that is just because I was running late, and I normally would have probably some rosé right now, but I just didn't get to it, but that's okay. I'm a little
There
unhinged
we have
regardless
yeah.
because of my age. I feel like I'm a little buzzed all the time, so
That's fair.
Love it. Give the listeners a little idea, who you are, what you do, what you love, just give them a little snippet of you.
well, I am a Southern girl. I'm from New Orleans area, born and raised. And, I love our culture. I love living there, going back there when we're at our beach house a lot. And it's kind of made me who I am, you know, big family, a lot of fun. We laissez la montagne relays, really, we live it. And let's see. I have, gosh, my story's so broad and big and all the things. So 2 kids, remarried to really my favorite person here, and just, living my life and trying to rise through all the things that just don't quit coming.
Yeah, and we're gonna get to that for sure.
I feel like also I just kind of came to this realization, I don't know, a while ago, maybe a couple months ago, but the things I feel like once we hit this age, maybe 50s, I feel like the things keep coming faster.
Yep. Yeah.
Yeah, life just keeps putting the curveballs in my way. And I had this fantasy that once I got to this age, I would be, things would be easier, but yeah, just I don't feel like it's quite going that way. But we'll dive into all that. Maybe we'll just get going with some of the questions that Lisa and I have. And, sometimes we just end up going right redder. So who knows where this conversation will take us, but that's what
Y'all
makes it
just
fun.
be my bumper pads and I'll go wherever you want me to go. And
It's
I'll
all
pull it
good.
back wherever you want. I'm easy.
It's
Love it.
all good.
So you've lived through some pretty significant losses that change someone forever. And you can, dive into as much as you want about your stories around that. But when you look back at the woman that you were before those significant losses, what would you say to that woman?
Mm. I had to answer this recently, which is where this emotion came from. Whew. I would say that you're gonna make it, and a lot of it's gonna suck, and you're still gonna make it. Yeah. And I'd probably cheer her on a whole lot more than I ever did. I'd, you know, encourage her to write down the things that she's already done and accomplished and lived through and survived, the person that I was just before all of these major things, the last set of major things happened. Yeah.
I feel like
That's what I would tell her.
sometimes, a lot of times, we're our worst cheerleaders. Like,
Uh,
it's just like, really? Frenemy in my head? Like,
It is the thing that the journaling process targets because it's it is the thing that heals us. The broken, we're not broken, right? But the broken part of us, the
Mhm.
thing that if we're gonna call something broken, it's just the way we see ourselves.
Mhm.
It's not me that is broken. It's the way I viewed myself and the story I told about myself within what was happening around and to me.
The word that popped in my mind was shattered. Because I agree. It's like we're not broken. There's nothing wrong with us. But when big things, life things happen that knock us on our ass, I feel shattered, and it's like, that plate, it's like I have to figure out how am I going to put all those pieces back together. And I love what you said that you would have told your prior self, you're going to make it because we don't feel that way in the moment. Like there's
No.
so many times you're like, I am not going to survive this. How am I going to make it through? And then we do.
Yeah. So maybe you could share a bit, whatever you're comfortable with sharing, just about your story so listeners can kind of tell how you got to this place. Again, nothing that you're not comfortable sharing, but I do think it would
I
help.
wrote a whole novel about it. There are
Alrighty
very
then.
few secrets in my life.
Alrighty
So,
then. Maybe
yeah.
shorten it slightly than the novel, but hey.
Oh, yeah, I have the cliff notes. I'm pretty good at that. The story of my life is interesting in its entirety because of it kinda, builds, right? So, parents divorced when I'm 6, mom raises 4 kids by herself, no child support, dad's gone. Get married young, have babies young, 2 by 21, and then somewhere in my son's first year of life, my ex-husband, who was a beautiful soul, but a troubled soul and more abuse than probably most people I've ever known in my life, just couldn't overcome it. He then became an addict. So in my 20s, what became my nightmare also became the thing that saved me because it pushed me to go deep and to look at myself and my part in it and begin to investigate how did I get here? Like, what put me in this scenario and how do I get out? And how do I survive so that I could take care of my children who, like, my worst nightmare would have been for them to have no father like I grew up with, no dad, and live in poverty. So his addiction pushed me to go inward, and I did for 8 years, solid, 4 nights a week. I mean, probably now I can look back, a lot of my healing path, a lot of my returning to myself has been to go and look at her in those years because it was fairly Herculean, and it's hard even now for me to say that out loud because it didn't feel like that at the time. It felt hard, but I just did it. I just did what I had to do. And so that laid the foundation for the rest of it. And when I was 30, almost 31, well, 30, I had enough and we had another relapse and I said, I'm done. And I didn't know how, but I knew I couldn't emotionally afford to go through it again, and I made him leave, and then part 2 started where I regrouped and went to work and figured it out, and I did. I I just did. Again, it's just in my makeup to rise, in my bones, in my everything to just figure it out, find my way. And I did, and I did some amazing things in my 30s too. I in my late I end up just in, working, I had 2 jobs. It was great. It was great. I ended up earning more than I probably should have for not having an education and all the things. And then I left corporate America, became a health and wellness coach, featuring more like on physical side of health and how the mind body is connected, and that if you take care of your physical self, one's going to feed the other, you know, literally and proverbially. And so I did that for many years, well, about 5 years, and then maybe like 4 years. And that was like coming home to myself. Like I had gone back to school to finish my degree, wanted to be a counselor, but then I got into this health coaching and it ended up being mindset coaching and empowerment coaching. And, I was coaching entrepreneurs. And if y'all know about entrepreneurial work, it's all mindset and personal development, all of it. And so that's what I became. I was coaching teams. I was doing all this really cool stuff and doing well at it. And I had since gotten remarried and was really living what I would have said was my dream life for where I came from. And I think that's important because when we look at people and we see where they're at and we limit them by education and opportunity and those things, and I I don't know. I think it's more than that. I know it is because of who I am and where I'm at in my life and where I was then. So, by that point I'm 42, and then on a given Thursday, my mom just she just died. Like and she was only 64, and she wasn't like dying. We're all dying, but it wasn't imminent, and we found her. So that was its own beast, PTSD. And then it was just, okay, now it's like the universe handed me this box of rocks or this bag of coal that I had never held before because I didn't know what profound grief was like. I didn't know what sudden close death was like. I mean, people had died around me in my life, but nobody really close in my inner circle, and not like that. And so it was this whole new paradigm that I'm in deep. I'm the one who's making the phone calls, I'm doing all the things. And besides the PTSD of like the impermanence of life, that was my first taste of it. Like, so now nothing was safe around me. I would wake up and look over and see if my husband was breathing. And it was very involuntary. It was classic PTSD stuff, you know? And then, so I navigated that and probably had my first brush with depression. I had been anxious my whole life, but I had this little brush with depression. And because of my background, I knew what it was. And so I just started taking some natural stuff to pull myself up out of this little hole I was in. Didn't get that bad. And then at some point, probably within a year, I remember thinking, oh, I feel more myself. I felt like I could recognize who I was. I could get my feet back under me. I could really start building my business again, which is really my deep passion. And so, yeah, that I was 42. And then my son was 22. So 2 years later, well, 20 months, not 2 years later. I was just thinking about it earlier. It was like 19 months. He was 22. He was living back with us, doing really well. And, you know, just all of a sudden, he took his own life. My mom hadn't done that, but he did. And we came home and found him. And, you know, I think I thought I knew when I lost mom. Like, and I did. I knew more. I was more exposed. I was more devastated than I had ever been with grief. But I did know because that was just this other, the human mind. I say this all the time. The human mind is just not prepared to process. I don't think it's prepared to process death in general, especially in the Western
Yeah,
world.
I would agree.
Because I see other cultures and I'm jealous that they are allowed freedom of grief and expression. And people don't look at them like they have three heads. So while my mother's loss prepared me in ways of kind of, sort of, what grief would feel like, that it wasn't linear. I didn't expect that if I had a good day or an hour, that I would have another one. I knew from losing her that that's how it would go. So I wasn't broadsided like that. It had prepared me in some ways, but I would argue with anyone that you just can't prepare for this. There isn't. There's no comparison other than your reference to other losses. That is just all. And that's not to say that if when the only person big close to me was my mother, it was enormous. It was so huge that I thought, oh my gosh, like this is the worst. However, I would say no. And that's not to quantify or compare, none of those things, but my description of my loss for those people who've had children, the way that your children change you, they make you a different human. Losing them does exactly that, but it's mostly negative. So there's some that I could pull from it that I have allowed myself to receive and learn and grow. But by and large, it's a loss versus a gift.
My name is Karen Shatafian, and I am a shameless coffee addict and empowerment coach for women, and my love language is authenticity. My mission is helping women unapologetically design a life they're in love with. Because what the hell are we waiting for? My website, KarenShatafian.com, has all my coaching packages and free offers like my Midlife Reclamation Guide. In it, you'll find tools to help you decide how to create the most inspired and empowered version of yourself and your life. You can find me on Facebook and Instagram talking about ways women can show up for themselves after decades of showing up for everyone else. Join me as we throw off the shackles and live our best freaking lives. See the show notes for all the details. Cheers.
And that started a whole new layer and level and discovery of strength and fortitude and mind ability and capacity to take this, what most people would call insurmountable grief, and metabolize it, or in some spiritual worlds like we call it alchemize it or whatever. I would just say survive it. and in that have a quest to live anyway, and a decision. So yeah, that's the Marie story without all the fun things that were embedded in between and through.
Yeah.
I had two of my dearest friends over the past 2 years. It's almost been 2 years. And they both lost their sons who were in their late 20s within like almost a year of each other. And we were in the same, friend group. There was like 8 of us.
Mhm.
And watching them go through that, losing their sons, I mean, I call it for myself like grief adjacent, because our kids were in preschool together. So I watched these young men grow up, and my girlfriends and I, we became moms together. We learned how to mom together. And honestly, it's like, I don't know how you do that. I don't know how you get through that. And but I've watched them do it. Like, I've watched them. And I think basically they just put one foot in front of the other. Some days, no. Some days they didn't get out of fucking bed. And no, I mean, of course, absolutely.
Yeah.
Right. But like, can you pinpoint, and maybe there's not one right thing, but can you pinpoint anything that was helpful for you to be able to put one foot in front of the other, to be able to get out of bed after those
Mhm.
huge losses?
What I believe and what I've seen, what I've now, after working with a lot of moms who've lost children over these years, is that who we are when we lose them, by and large, dictates who we are in through it. So unless you do some major work. So for instance, I had done a lot of my healing work through my 20s and 30s and in halfway through my 40s, because I was 44 when he passed. So because I understood the power of the mind and the power of our decisions and our intentions, I feel like I probably was ahead of the game for processing. Not that I didn't hurt like everybody else. I had the wherewithal to not allow my mind to make it worse. And that, to somebody who's lost a child, is going to be like, how could it be worse? Well, it could be because of what you tell yourself about yourself in it. And so I understood that instantly. I understood that night when we found him. I understood what to do and not do. And I was pretty inebriated when we came home, by the way. So, which is a blessing and a curse, right? Because it's muted, but then it's distortion on how you react. So all the things, who knows? It just is how it fell out. But even on scene, I was mentally able to make some decisions for myself that I may not have had I not understood the power of suggestion and moment by moment what I was seeing and what I was saying about it. So I had the good fortune of reading. I was reading a book. It was more on the entrepreneurial phase by Tony Robbins before I lost my mom. And in the book, it just, I don't remember what it was, but somewhere my mind put together that when something or someone passes, that they are gone from the body instantaneously. So when we found my mom, I was able instantly to just be like, she's not there. It didn't happen that way with my son Quentin, but it happened enough that I didn't go and make it worse for myself experientially. And I fortunately had that choice. It's very convoluted what happened that night, but I was able to not go put myself in a position that would have tainted my vision even more. And so to answer your question, maybe I always feel like I'm kind of going around because it's so broad of a topic, but it's understanding the power that we all have. By the way, some of us, it's just like a skill we haven't learned yet. It's not that if you lose a child or lose anybody and you don't have these skills, it's not that you're better or worse. It's just a skill that you haven't honed yet. And because of that, I feel like I was able to talk myself through. I was already in deep repair of my internal dialogue, of digging deep for compassion for myself. And so instead of going down the massive guilt road that one does and can do, and there was some of that with suicide for sure, I was able to be kinder to myself and to, because I had done all that work, I could already see what I had done for him. Those were the things that saved me. My journal, I already had that in place, and I've watched women put it in place after the fact and it be their safe space, because the isolation is the secondary loss when you lose a child. The bare isolation, the you are the only person on the planet. I am the only person on this planet who was his mother. Period. It doesn't even matter if there's another mother who lost their child. No one was his mother. You know, when we lost our mom, I had 3 siblings, and we all lost our mom. And we all had a different relationship with our mom, but we were in this together. And it was isolating. So the journal could be your best friend, your safe space. You could curse all the people out in your journal. You could curse society's rules and regulation, all of it, because you see what a mess it all is in those moments. So I think if I had to pick one specific thing that I did right away, was whether I was okay or not, I would say I would just whisper to myself. And I think it was just some wild instinctual something, but I would just whisper to myself. I would say, "You're okay. You're okay." And then when I wasn't okay, when I literally couldn't breathe, I'd be like, "I'm not okay, but I'm going to be. I'm going to be. I don't know how. I'm going to be." And I would just over and over and over, because my drive to be okay was bigger than this pain. And for me in my life, I had honed that skill really well. You're just going to figure out how to be okay. And I believed it. Good for me. I believed it because it saved me. But I also always say we're all making all of this shit up. All of it. We're all of it. We're making up where we go. We're making up all of it. And so if we get to make it up, and we do, then why not make up what will make you feel better?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So it sounds like, and I could be making assumptions, so feel free to rip
No,
my head
you're
off if I
fine.
am. It sounds like you didn't spend a lot of time in the, I don't know if I'm going to come back from this place, and fairly, I don't want to say immediately, but fairly shortly relative to the unthinkable just happening, you were able to start in the direction of rising and rebuilding and figuring out to heal how, or figuring out you wanted to heal, at least like committing to that piece and knowing it was possible. Do you feel like you talked about the fact that you'd done a lot of work on yourself and your mom was kind of your first doorway into that place. Do you feel like all of those things maybe didn't prepare you for this, but at least gave you some kind of a path that you knew was a positive one to kind of start in that
Mm,
direction?
hmm. What I would say I did initially was decide. Like, if I could gift someone something, I would say that your decision of who you will be through this, what you tell yourself on a regular basis, is going to dictate how this goes. I see it because I get moms here who 2 years in have been telling themselves the wrong things. And I don't want to say wrong because I never want to criticize somebody's journey. I see them, they want to survive. They want to rise. They want to make it. They want to figure it out. And they just keep telling themselves they can't or they won't or they just don't have a belief, a base somewhere that says I can get through anything. They want to, often they want to for their other children. I don't know. I wanted to for my life. I just wanted to be okay. But if the base isn't there, if you don't believe that you can, it's just right. If you believe you can or you believe you can't, you're right. And so that's the thing. I wouldn't tell you there was any level of rebuilding, just so we're clear on words. There's no rebuilding in the first however long it takes you. I mean, I was functioning and breathing and surviving for a long time, because you're navigating the world like with a lens now that nothing you ever do again in this whole life goes the same. Nothing. You can't go to the grocery store because their things are there. You can't have a memory because they're not here. Like, everything's tainted. So at first, it's just, you just have to decide that you want to survive and you want to find your way back to some modicum of life that that isn't misery. And I think in the beginning that's I don't want to say that's all it takes, because that is mountainous, or that, is that even a word? Monumental, that's the word. It's yeah, it's like you're staring at Mount Everest and you're like, I got to get to the for me, I got to get to the top, because if I don't get up there, I'm gonna stay down in the hole forever. It's gonna swallow me. And then for me, it was, I'm gonna lose everybody else too. I'm gonna lose them all. That's how big the abyss is. If I let it swallow me, I'm gonna lose them all. And I had a lot of things that I wasn't willing to lose. And I had zero idea of how I was going to do this. None.
I remember for me, and I've talked about this before, when I lost my mom, like I was prepared for the sadness. I was prepared for that piece. Like that made sense to me. But what I was not prepared for was just this complete fog and disorientation and just feeling like you're hearing things through like a bunch of muffled waves for quite a bit afterwards. I was not prepared for that. And that really knocked me for six, because it was like I knew that, grieving her and being sad was going to be hard enough. That piece added onto it, I was not prepared for it. And I think that was almost harder than the grief itself. It's not separate from the grief, but you really know that when you're going through it, if that makes sense.
No, I think it's confusing and it's unnameable because you don't know it's coming. So fortunately, I use that term loosely. When I lost my son, I was prepared for that. I also think that I was also more compassionate and gentle with myself when I lost him because of the work I had already done. I understood that if I was going to survive, I was going to have to give myself the grace and the space to process this in my timing, in my way, the way I wanted. And believe me, many of the people around me, some of them are not around me anymore, but many of them wanted me to do it their way because it made them comfortable. And I just refused. I was like, this is mine. This is mine. And I'm going to do it how I need to do it. And so I know what you're talking about. The fog is, I think that's the thing that kind of put me in that depression after I lost my mom, because I was like, I think I'm going a little crazy. Like you're in, it's like, well, menopause, the same thing happens. And so, but there's really no name for that until you know what it is. But yeah, so I think for when I lost my son, I kind of knew, and I think I even knew as it's unfolding that this is going to be even more intense and more lengthy, because it was a different relationship altogether. My mom and I were not bad with each other, but we weren't like good friends. We were good, but we were so different people. We just didn't, you know. So it wasn't like losing my best friend, and I'm sad, extra sad for some women who lose their mothers, and it was their friend, like their confidant, their person. That I could see how that complicates things even worse. But no matter what, you're still navigating all of the relationship dynamics when they're gone. Like, what did I do and didn't do, and what could I have done? And that just self-doubt and all those things start to come into play. I mean, for those of us who are self-reflective, I'm sure there's people that don't do those things. But yeah, the brain fog of grief is clearly another secondary, so many secondary losses in grief. We don't just lose them. That almost seems like you could make it.
Hey there, I'm Lisa Coricella McDowell, your midlife Pacific Northwest princess, here to guide you in the art of next leveling your life. I'm passionate about women's health and wellness in midlife, especially for moms parenting kids with unique needs like I do. I truly believe we can learn, grow, advocate, and care for the planet while taking care of ourselves and our families. And I'd love to help you do the same. And I'm beyond excited to tell you about my membership for maxed out mamas just like me, the Empowered Parent Collective. It's a space for parents to confidently advocate for their kids, build inclusive communities, educate themselves, and find balance and support along the way. To find out more about the Empowered Parent Collective, my classes, wellness offerings, parenting tips, advocacy resources, and exclusive Drinks with the Girls goodies, head to nextlevellifewithlisa.com. Let's survive and thrive in the messy middle together.
I was 26 when my mom died, and yeah, that fog and just that space of like, decision making and just all of it. Who am I? I don't know who I am. And I think it's hard for us going through it, or people going through grief, but also people around us. Like, I can remember I was with my ex-husband at the time, and, it's like, oh, hey, it's a Friday night. We're getting off work. Oh, hey, we're going to go out to dinner with so-and-so. Okay, sounds great. And then 2 hours later, I'm sobbing on the bed, and I'm like, I don't want to go, and he's like, what is happening? Like, he didn't know because he hadn't really at that moment
Totally.
experienced, so I think it's hard because not only are we having to walk through this ourselves and figure out what's going on for us, the people around us don't know what's happening with us either. And so then having to figure that out too, it's like, it just makes the baggage heavier with that.
Well, and
But
especially if they haven't had,
yeah,
and it could be different layers, right? You could have lost your parent, but if you didn't lose your parent to sudden loss, or the thing that those extra layers of loss that complicate it even further. And so, and also, like, every relationship is different. My husband losing his dad was different than me losing my mom, even though we were close to both of them. His dad was his person, so it was a different, so. And if you haven't gone through something big like that, they have no idea what you're going through. They don't understand that you don't even know what you want. They think, you know what I'm saying? They're
yeah.
like navigating the minefield of your emotions, except for they're not even feeling feeling them. So I understand. I know what you're saying. So it does get really complicated for the people around us, and then relationships shift and change. And
Oh, yeah. And I know too when my girlfriends both lost, their children, I didn't know I messed it up. I mean, I messed it up. Like, I didn't get it right as the person trying, to support them. And, that's a wild place to be in too, because it's like, "Oh my gosh, I wanna just support my sisters, support them," and, these young men that I watched grow up, and then still I'm like, blah, 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 fumbling over what to say, what to do, and so I just think it's and like what you said earlier about how in Western culture, you don't even talk about death. Like, you don't even, we're not even allowed to talk about it. And so I just think you know, it makes it hard for everybody, the people going through it and the people trying to support the people going through it.
for everybody. Yeah.
Yeah.
I
Yeah, yeah.
love that term that you said, just the process of metabolizing grief.
Mhm.
That's really powerful for me, because it's like, it's not like poof, one day it goes away. Like, when you metabolize something, it spreads out into your DNA, but once it's metabolized, you can like get up in the morning and function. You like have a purpose, you can like function, but it never leaves you, right? So I want to make sure that we get to this big piece that we haven't talked about, because I think that you found a tool that helped you metabolize this, and I feel like that would be something really important to share with the listeners. So do you want to talk a little bit about that piece?
Sure. So before I lost my mom, about a year, my daughter, anyway, I got this book, and it was about journaling, a journaling habit. And it's called The Artist's Way by Julia
Yep.
Cameron.
Yep.
And my daughter gave it to me. She's an actress and a vocalist and all these things, but I'm really artistic. I'm a seamstress. I do all kind of fun stuff. And she gave it to me, and the book is about using the daily pages to connect to yourself, just to give yourself a voice daily. That's it. And I started doing it, and I started working through the book, and it was fun. And, I thought I was going to be some like Monet, like a painter. And I never really painted anything. So I don't know. I think that's glamorous in my mind. Right. But it turns out that, and I always was a writer, but that's what showed up. But that wasn't really what changed me. I mean, I did go on to author a book, but it was the daily pages. It was no matter what is going on in your heart and mind, it's giving yourself, like some people give themselves meditation time, right? They sit and they're with themselves for 10 minutes or 20 minutes. This is 3 pages. You just write, and you could write that you damn don't want to be writing this. You can write whatever's happening in your head. And that created a habit for me, like brushing my teeth. I just became a journaler every morning, and I wrote. And through that process, something pretty spectacular happens. And she talks about it in the book, but it happened to me before I got to the part where she talks about it. And I started to like receive something back in my journal, like guidance. I think most much like people maybe get in meditation. I get that now in meditation sometimes. I'm still not a meditator that much. But I started to receive this stuff back. And I remember not telling anybody for a long time because I thought they're going to think I'm nuts. Like, they're going to think I'm crazy. And I think in the beginning, I just believed it was God, you know? Maybe then as my spiritual beliefs shifted and melded and changed, I thought God, the universe, source energy. I was listening to a lot of Audible stuff by Wayne Dyer at the time. And, I was in the middle of a spiritual transformation already. So that led, so that the time frame is I started journaling in 2015. My mom dies in 2016. My son dies in 2017. And about 18 months later, I start running women's retreats for personal development and empowerment. That's what it was about, because it was tied to my other business. So these women it was entrepreneurial and all, but again, it was personal development and mindset coaching. And so I kept at the retreats trying to get them to do this journaling, but I didn't have a process. It wasn't a steps. It was just I was just journaling, and I kept saying, "Y'all just write it down. You could see what you think." I knew what I was getting, but I couldn't yet articulate it or pass it on or teach it, other than giving them space at the retreat to write and us to talk about their writings and stuff like that. Probably another year or so goes by, and I just got frustrated because they weren't getting the healing power of journaling, what I was calling journaling, which was actually this process that I had taken all of my psychology and my like schooling and all my therapy tools that I had garnered and books and books and all the things, and I had taken it and m- moved this journaling process around and utilized it. So I would have maybe a therapy session, and we'd talk about something, and then I'd go work it through on the journal. And so probably like 2 years into working with these women, I had a small gathering, and I right there on that porch, I say this all the time, I channeled it. I, I- it was like the teacher in me just wanted to teach them, and this process came through. It was, we're going to do this, and then we're going to do this, and then we're going to do this, and we're going to do this. And what I didn't know then that I know now is it was clear identity work. It's healing the internal dialogue, which heals the way you see yourself, which heals your identity. And when we see ourselves in our truth and our light and our goodness, we live from that instead of the deprecating thoughts that we're always telling ourselves. So instead of Marie, who's never quite getting it right, I'm Marie, who's looking at what I'm actually doing, which is pretty damn amazing. And that changes who I am and how I show up and you know, how I move in the world. And so that's what this journal writing process turned into that day. And then after that, I packaged it, I put it in online, and I started teaching it at all of my retreats. And now it is my signature process that I only work with. So my one-on-one sessions that I do with people, they do a writing before they come to me, and we know what we're working with. And it's and by proxy, or whatever the word is, I also can't find my words often, but
Same.
they I'm so used to it now. I'm like, "Oh, pig, pet, whatever."
Yep. Couch, banana.
So they if they do it and they uh, grasp this concept, which isn't hard, but it takes a little practice, then they can do it by themselves, and they don't need me unless they get really stuck. And so yeah, that's where that process came from. So, or how it appeared, or how it has gained energy and life. And so yeah, so the first part is a reveal, which is stream of consciousness. It's just like what's going on up in that head of yours. Because most of the time we don't look at it. We don't even know what we keep thinking over and over and over. And then we look for the pain points, the things that need attention, that need love. Somewhere along the way, I've explained it. I describe it like your younger versions of yourself pop up all over. And we see it, and we think about, like, if they woke up from a nightmare, what do they need to settle, to calm, to just be okay again? So we go and we find those, and we do a rewrite. So we're writing back to the original writing, but we're writing back to it from a higher perspective, whatever you believe that to be. And of course there are nuances to it, right? How do we do this? What are we looking for? How do you even pick that out? Some people are like, the whole thing. Like, I have to highlight the whole thing. And then the rewiring comes as we practice again and again and again, because two things happen. The first part becomes repetitive. The same things show up. So the rewrite becomes repetitive, and the healing piece, the medicine, the compassion and the love for who we are as human beings becomes repetitive. And the more repetitive, the more ingrained, the more neural pathways we switch and we heal, right? And then, or we create new neural pathways. So instead of the bike rut going down the same rut, which is the old, you're never good enough, now we go like, well, it switches over time to not only are you not good enough, you are pretty damn amazing. Look, you you've raised some children. You managed to stay married for 20 years or whatever, or whatever we've done in our life. And for some people, it's not dynamic, right? It doesn't matter. It's just seeing yourself in a clear light, and then you rewire. So it's the reveal, the review, the rewrite, and the rewire. And I've watched people who do this repeatedly over and over and over, and they change the fabric of who they are. I'm still kind of baffled. Like, I'm really doing this work. Like, okay, so
I'm
yeah.
changing lives over here.
This is so
Right,
funny because
right.
this kind of mirrors the process that Karen and I went through and when I was a coaching client of hers, and she would just be like, journal. And I'm like, okay. And I'd be like, well, what do you want me to write about? She's like, I don't want you to write about anything. Just write. And I'd sit there and right? And so when we went through this whole process, I really needed some kind of structure to make it happen. And she talks about the fact, she goes, you were my hardest client ever to teach to journal, but I became a better coach because I was able to do that. But I really resonate with the people that are like, well, I don't understand. Well, what do I write about? Well, but I don't know what to, you know what I mean? Like, I feel that. I still struggle with that. I still struggle with making it a habit and all of that. And I think Karen probably falls more on the side of people that, like, that's the tool and they're going to go for it. So I love the way that this kind of channels all that in one piece.
I think it's hard too because Lisa, she's not the only client I've had, and I don't want to call you out, girl, but
Please do. It's fine.
when
I
you
love
have, I feel like they were afraid to do it wrong.
Mhm.
So there's an uncomfortability in just letting it all come out,
Yep.
and a little fear because you're like, what the hell is going to come out?
Yeah. And that's for me, I think where it starts is it's like I'm holding it together and white knuckling it. And so pouring everything out feels very vulnerable. And so I have this block that's not going to make me feel better. That's going to make me feel worse. And so I think it's this subconscious piece of like, I don't want to let it out because once I start, I'm not going to have any control over it later.
You and a lot of people. And, it's the illusion of control that keeps
Oh, yeah.
you
It's
not
all
in
bullshit.
control, because you have way more control when you get it out of your body and you look at it and you do something with it. It's just our human nature, right? I just am wired to open it all up. Let's look at all of the things. That's who I am as a human. And so probably because I'm uniquely called to this specific type of work, right? So, but I come against this a lot. One of the analogies I like to share about that is if you have, let's say those emotions that you're not looking at are like kind of rot, kind of toxic. They're sitting there. You're not looking at them, but they're there and they are affecting your day life. They are, whether you take them out and look at them or not, right? It's there. We have the illusion of the control. And so I think about like if you have this jar and inside of it, there are some things in there that are festering and you want to keep the lid on because you don't want to smell it. You don't want to feel it. You don't, right? And you can keep the lid on, but it doesn't mean that the damage is not still happening in the jar. When the lid comes off, and that's the problem, the lid comes off in things that we don't have control over, right? Somebody pisses you off and you lose your shit. And then you're like, I don't even know why I got upset with them. And not everybody handles things that way, but that's kind of how I am, especially after a couple of drinks. So, so so my thinking on part of it is like we have an opportunity in our own comfort of our own space to hold a container for it, to kind of pop the lid a little then you get to put it back on. Pop the lid a little, then you get to put it on. And understanding that we have full autonomy to not stay in it once we've touched it. That's too much. I don't want to touch it. But otherwise, it's just festering and festering and festering, and it's coming out at some point, at some time. And it might be when life shatters you. And now all the things that we didn't actually care about, not care about, I don't want to be negative at all, but all those things that we didn't hold tenderly and give our attention and love to are going to get their due, because it's all going to get its due, just like grief. I see this all the time, and I could have, because this is my personality, I could have just got back in my work and worked and worked and worked and worked and been like, that's over there. I'm okay. I'm okay. I'm okay. I'm okay. And we can do that, but it's going to get its due. Emotions have their own it is energy in motion, and it has its own life, and it's going to get what it needs one way or the other. So I feel like I have more control in getting to decide how I manage that than not. And once I got this journaling process in place, I could go and sit and write 14 pages to my husband and manage all of the stuff that's really not about him before I go and have the conversation, with him. I don't always do that, by the way. It's good in theory.
Okay, quick pause. Have we talked about the Pod Squad lately?
Oh, the Pod Squad. You mean our email list /VIP lounge /digital wine club?
Exactly. So listeners, if you're not on it yet, you're basically making life harder for yourself when it comes to podcasts.
Like trying to scroll for show notes while speed walking on a treadmill. Wait, what was that link again? Oh, no. Grab the side rails.
Or pulling up that book we mentioned while you're in the Starbucks line and then realizing everybody else moved up 3 cars and now you're that woman.
We've all been there. That's why we made the Pod Squad. You'll get new episode alerts every week with direct links. Easy to listen, easy to share.
And show notes straight to your inbox. So when we drop a life-changing product, book, hot tip, or yummy new drink, you're not rummaging through your memory like a woman searching for her reading glasses when they're on top of her head.
It's organized, it's helpful, it's for you, babes.
So join the Pod Squad. The link is in the show notes. Just tap it.
Snacks, sarcasm, solidarity,
and obviously fighting the patriarchy.
We write at dawn.
That's what I would say to someone, but I get a lot of people. And what I will tell you is 100% of the time, the women who are in my arena, whether it's retreats or one-on-one or small group stuff I do, even the non-writers, they're like, oh, like I didn't know that it's not about being a good writer. It's not about being eloquent or whatever. It's about literally dumping whatever shit's in your brain out onto the paper and allowing it to breathe so that you can decide what you want to look at. And sometimes I'll start to do the work with them and something has shown up and they're not ready and I can see it, or they are telling me, I don't, I'll ask a question and they'll say, I don't really want to go there right now. And I'm like, perfect. That's exactly right. So now you just know, you bank it, you set it on the shelf. And one day when you're by yourself at home, write more about it. Let it come out, cry it out, then put it back. And you get to go visit it whenever you allow yourself to, or feel strong enough, or when the world demands that you got no choice. And so like right now, here we are, you better go look at it right now.
I'm a huge fan of therapy. And I think that, journaling is cheaper than therapy, which is beautiful. It can't replace it 100%, but I think that the therapy journaling 1-2 punch is a pretty efficient way of working through stuff, learning more about yourself. You can talk to your therapist all day long, right? And you can just talk about the problems, talk about your feelings, talk about this, that, and the other. But what do you think is the difference and the power in actually writing, actually journaling the same things that you might be talking to your therapist about? But how is it that it can be more powerful in writing sometimes? Does that make sense?
Yes. And my answer's probably going to be a little convoluted like my brain.
Love it.
I'm following it. I love my brain now, so I'm just going with it. Here's what I think. I have people come to me and they are journalers, but they're not getting anywhere in their journals. And so what I've done, and I'm not saying, I want to be really clear that I don't think my way is the only way. Clearly, people are doing life 100 million other ways. However, the value in the privacy of it, in the way, what I have uniquely done is put a piece in it that ensures that we finish, let's call it a session with ourselves. I never get up from my journal. Matter of fact, half the time I don't want to get up from my journal because I have learned to give myself what I need so much that I'm like, oh, now I got to go make decisions. I got to go talk to people, you know. So I think the difference can be that and I'm a fan of therapy, 100%. I think the difference for me was that my therapist could give me a taste of what he saw in me or empowerment or something. But if you can learn the technique of that being the focus of the end of the journal, then it's literally like being with the person. You know, we have these people in our life that pump us up and they make us feel like, ooh, I have friends like that, right? But they got lives and children and things like that. Well, when I become that for myself on the page, then I get that anytime I need it or want it. And that is what truly rewires and resets the nervous system. It's getting what you need when you need it. That is what calms your nervous system, right? We want to control things because our insides are all jazzed up. We want our husbands or our people to be these things, but the only reason we think we need those from other people is because we still aren't giving it to ourselves. And then when you do, and then my husband does something, I don't know, notices something, I don't know, whatever, that I used to need, like breath, I needed it. Now it's lanyap. That's a New Orleans term, which just means extra. It just means a little something on the side. So you can enjoy the things you get out of life instead of needing them to be okay. And so I think that's the difference in the way I teach journaling. I had a niece. I asked her to go through my online program when I was refining it just to kind of see what did she think, because she was a college graduate. And she said, Aunt Marie, I've been journaling and journaling, but I always feel like I'm not getting anywhere with it. And she was like, this is just different. And I was like, yeah, but I only know it because it was happening to me for at least, say, 3.5 years before I was like, why aren't these people getting it? Well, because they were only hearing write it down. They weren't hearing process it through and give yourself what you need. I think if people could leave with one thing, believe one thing, would be that everything they've been looking for, bes- irrelevant of what you believed, is in you. Like you you are the one. Byron Katie is amazing, right? She talks about you're the one you've been waiting for. You're the one who's not getting yourself the value you think you need from your mom or your dad or your kids or your spouse or your whatever. Because when you do that, when you realize your own value and your worth and you give it to yourself, all the rest of it, you'll realize that none of that really mattered. Did it matter when you were a kid? Yes, but you're a whole grown ass adult. Like, did it matter? Did it shape you? Yes, but now you have the ability to reshape who you are, how you move, what you think, what you believe. And then if people could just get that one thing and then find a way to go fetter that out, they'll just be able to set themselves free in a way that they can't even imagine yet is available. It's the most empowering part. It wasn't until I'm sitting in the room with these women in the retreats and in my head is like, oh my God, what if I'm saying the wrong thing? What if they think I'm an imposter? What if I think blah, 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 blah. It wasn't until I started saying to myself, Marie, you know what you're talking about. You know what you're doing. You've already had success. They couldn't give me enough feedback to heal that. That was in me. And I'm the only one who could heal it.
I think when you get to that point and you recognize that, and I don't want to say how simple because it's not really, I mean, it is, but it isn't. But, you get to this stage in life. I think I was like, it was probably 4 years ago where I realized, well, I don't have to put up with some of this bullshit anymore. And I have the power in my own mind, to pump myself up and tell myself who I am. Like with my clients, I tell them, write in your journal, I am. Just fill up your whole
Of
page with
course.
I am, I am, I am, right? And sometimes things will slip in there like I'm forgetful or, I am whatever. But it's like it becomes empowering and then you start to believe it. And then I don't know, you realize I wish 27-year-old me could have figured this out. I wish I didn't wait,
Right? I know.
30 years to realize, oh my gosh, it's
Seriously.
all bullshit. There's no rules. All this is made up. Everybody is just trying to figure it out as we go along. Doesn't matter how old we are. And our own mind is what is either going to help us or hurt us.
Yep.
Like you said, whatever it is you believe, you're right.
Yep.
So,
Yep. And I had the good fortune of working with a 19-year-old, and her grandma came to my retreat. And then she said, I really want you to work with my granddaughter. And I was like, okay, well, I hadn't worked with anybody that young yet, but I did. And I'm going to tell you, this girl did a year of ketamine therapy. It was so involved, the whole thing. And what it really the weight of the pressure, the distortion that she was carrying was the view of how her parents saw her. That's it. It's not easy. It is simple. That was what was in her way. And the work therein becomes helping her look at what it is she believes about herself. Where did it come from? Is it true? Questioning, also Byron Katie work. And in 3 months, she said, I feel better than I've ever felt. And this girl suffered with cyclical depression, when I say big, big things. And what she did was learn how to love herself.
Yep.
But she couldn't, probably because of her age. And in the beginning, she couldn't just say the things and believe them. We had to dismantle what she believed by questioning where it came from and what's the whole truth. Were you were you a bad teenager? Did you do stupid shit? Okay, let's look at that. All right. And also XYZ. Like, what's the rest of the truth? Because the truth will set you free, but only if we have the whole truth. So I am a fan and am working on getting into work with some younger girls, because imagine a difference life would have been in my 20s if somebody was already pointing out to me that I'm surviving an addiction, a husband with addiction. I'm raising 2 babies, one of which was a very difficult child, my son that I lost, and I'm keeping it all together. Like, all I saw was what I was failing at. I saw that I was screaming at my children. I saw that I was impatient. I saw that, even all the way later in their lives. And I don't want to go too far down that, but like, imagine if we don't start in our 40s.
Imagine all the empowered women that'll be walking around, I mean, and not even just what we get from like our parents and our direct family, but, society. We love to blame the patriarchy, just all these messages that we get. And when we're a young woman, we don't realize those are not the truth. Though we don't realize that all these little tapes playing in our brain is not the truth, right? So I love it. I am such a fan for what you're doing. I'm excited that you're working with younger women, because that's where it's at.
I want to go in that direction. We do have technology as a problem with vulnerability in a group. So I can do it. I just have to do it more individual, because you can't, throw a bunch of 50-something here. They're not going to post it on Facebook.
Yeah.
But younger girls may. So I'm having to work again, looking at some realistic, you think you can trust them and you can until they steal your boyfriend and now you can't trust them
Yes.
anymore. This is a problem. So I do believe there's all of us collectively working towards this, but all the older women, I'm older, but all of the women in our age group, like that are then going to teach, it's still going to have a ripple effect, but
Yeah.
if we get in ahead and we are seeing some of that with this younger generation. But anyway, I just love the work and that's all I really want to do. And if I just could get somebody to do all this admin stuff, that would be great.
Yeah.
We hear you on that
Oh,
for
yeah.
sure.
Believe me. Now, Marie, where can people find you?
The easiest place to find me is through my website, which is mariecruz.com, because all my socials are linked there. Facebook is my main platform. I'm doing a lot on TikTok right now, but I do post a lot about my grief and my process and all the things on my Facebook. But my website, I offer a free consultation. If somebody wanted the Journal Jumpstart workshop, which is like a live workshop that I did, that it was the first workshop I did, they can sign up for that for free.
Manifesting a session at the first Drinks with the Girls retreat on journaling with Marie Cruz. Oh, we're on it. We're just like, this is going to happen. This is going to happen.
Wait, y'all are going to come to the retreat? Is that what you mean?
Oh, no. What I mean is we want to do what you're doing with retreats. We want to have Drinks with the Girls branded retreats where we bring some of these wonderful women that we've talked about and do a retreat. That's hopefully something that we're going to be manifesting in the future.
Our first one is a surf retreat in La Jolla, California in 2027.
That's what's
That's already going to be in the books.
That is fun. I think you should go for it. I think when women gather, it's healing. The energy's healing. Whoever's the most, empowered woman there, her energy just empowers the group. I'm clearly a fan.
Yes, thank you, Marie, for being here. Everyone, you all have the information you need to reach out to Marie, and we hope you do. For us, join the Pod Squad, reach out, DM us. We'll be very interested to hear some of the listener responses that we get from this, for sure. It's a lot to take in and process. So I'm excited to kind of see that.
Well, thank y'all once again for having me, for letting me share my story, talk about my boy, who I miss dearly, and just empower women to go out and find your answers. Go get it, because it's there. And probably my other favorite quote is, when the student is ready, the teacher appears. And that's going to be a book or a podcast or a person or whatever, but it's there for your taking if you will just go find it.
Love it.
Go get it, listeners.
All right, everybody.
Cheers.